ISM India recently conducted a survey of procurement professionals to understand their views about sustainable procurement. This survey comes out with many interesting findings, which will be shared during the current session. Now, I request Mr. Krishna Batra to present the highlights of the Sustainable Procurement Survey.
Thank you, Payal, for giving me this opportunity. Now let me share my. Yeah, here it is. Okay, to begin with, I want to thank again Payal and then Jelly Molino because she covered so well. I'll touch some of her insights into my presentation. So let me get back to the subject of sustainable procurement. So what we did around is everybody's talking of it. When we talk about climate change, as you heard about from Jelly, when we talk about green procurement, we talk about sustainable issues around. So sustainable procurement becomes a very key thing. So let me see what we did around and what survey feedback we got, and then based on the feedback, what are my summary of that. And I'm trying to put down at the bottom, you can see the crucial lever to end the crisis of the climate, the crisis of shortages, everything if you look around, because the planet is one. So if you have to leave something for the next generation, so if this is to me is a crucial lever to end the crisis around. So what we did around was we sent questions around 25 questions, and the questions were in the areas of policy, like do you have a policy on sustainable quality? We've asked around what are the key drivers for your policies around, what value addition you are getting through this, spend on green procurement, how much money of your procurement, let's say if I'm having a procurement of $1 billion, how much is going on the green products? We also talked about the role of ISO 20400, which is specifically designed for sustainable procurement, and it was launched only 5 years back. Then there's another standard on environmental management side, system management side, ISO 41000. So we tried to get some feedback from the companies around how much they're using it in terms of their policy, in terms of their action. Then we also looked around, are you getting executive support? Some procurement people, the young generation, they will love the word sustainable, they love the word green, but are they getting the executive support from the top? Which may be old-fashioned, they say, why to waste money around? Green is always costlier, some have that perception around. So cost of greening products, does it cost us much more if we want to become greener? And how do we approach in selecting the suppliers around? So we had questions on that, guys. How do you select somebody who says, I'm a green? How do you assess it? How do you check it? So we checked all those questions around. Customer experience. We talked about, again, progress of SP activities, sustainable procurement activities. If supplier says, I have done this, how do you check the validation part? So the validation part is another one. And as you heard when Jolene was talking, I was hearing very seriously, the carbon footprints, the carbon emission. How much procurement activity creates a carbon emission? Procurement activity may not do it, but procurement people are ordering to the supplier, and suppliers are ordering to the, again, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers. Everybody to produce the item is creating carbon footprints. So that I will touch on this, whatever the feedback I could get around. Then the packaging materials. On the packaging material, I think India is doing well because there's a lot of recycle in that part. On paper also well. Then we talked about Energy Star. There were some questions around. This area also, particularly for electrical goods. I think India has done a good progress around because the survey question was sent only to the Indian companies. Building materials, local spend. And local spend means now when we learned that we can't depend on one X country or Y country, are we trying to build our local market? The next thing we were the question, eco-labels part. How far it is successful in India and how far it has been used by the companies around. And then general comments. Then we made one thing, one big paragraph in the questionnaire. Give us your general comments. So, in terms of support from the suppliers, in terms of support from the management, in terms of the need in the market, does the market need green products? So, we ask some general questions, what improvement they suggest around. So, we try to summarize all this. So, these are the general questions. Now, let me get down to the, before I answer this, what we got the feedback, let me set the preamble part. Procurement is one of the most vital transactional parts of the conducting a business. Any business you look around. So you might be in a manufacturing, you might be in a service sectors. Procurement has become a very vital part now. If we are to implement sustainable development goals, this word came in the long back in 2015, the Secretary General of the UN. They came with SDG 17 goals around. And he mentioned, I'm just quoting his words around here. So he said the procurement is a key thing. Procurement is the one which is connecting the buyer and the supplier, and at the end, customer also. Some are consuming it, some are producing it, and every activity produces carbon emission. So the carbon emission is there around, wastages are there around. Sometimes we're not able to reuse it, so the items are going into the landfill. So procurement is a very vital transactional part around, which creates a chain. Whether you say dumping into the waste around, starts from procurement. Procurement at home, procurement in office, procurement anywhere. So the next thing is, in light of increasing environmental, we are hearing a lot about environment part. In the last, I would say, 1 year, we're hearing around the drought in Europe, drought in US in the east, on the west coast side, temperature shooting up in London, 40 degrees centigrade. So that shows there is a certainly environmental part. There's a business climate is changing, world climate is changing around. Even here we see around the summer is over, now we're getting the rains pouring around. The second round of rains have started now in Mumbai. So there is a change. Sustainable procurement has become the need of the hour. So whenever we talk about climate, procurement plays a wonderful key role around. So if we want to improve the future of the business, increase the sale, I'm sure people are now receptive to these things around. Like in the organic food, reception is happening around. Same way when we say my products are greener than others, people are willing to pay extra a little bit if it makes really saving. Now the bigger picture which I'm trying to put around here is worldwide on average 25%. Developed country may be less, but developing country, it is average 25% of GDP. So when public sector is spending money in doing projects, whether health sector projects, whether education project, whether any sector projects around, the procurement is there. And that procurement leads to some conversion somewhere. Somebody's manufacturing it, somebody's producing it. So that part is creating environmental impact. Similarly, when I talk of manufacturing, we talk of any auto company, 70% of the sales revenue is in the, if I talk around, procurement captures, spends the money around. Service sector around 40%. All of these procurement, you may think I'm buying 10 computers, I'm buying 20 tables, but at the end of the day, somebody is making it. That person is creating footprints. You're also creating footprints because when you come to the office, you also create carbon footprints. You sit in the office, air conditioning works, you create carbon footprint. So your activity is also creating carbon footprints. And when you place the order, they also create carbon footprints. So it's a big thing around. The concern for environment is certainly there around. At times, this objectives are odd with the goals. In the good old days, the focus was profit, profit. The business means profit, yes. But the profit should not be at the cost of, again, environment. But now I think people are coming with triple lines, bottom line, the concern for environment, basically planet, concern for people, and concern for economy also, profit also. So we are combining all the parameters around. In the good old days, it was only profit, nothing else. So now people has come, planet has come, all that are becoming part of it. So protect the environment by embracing sustainable. So to me, the word sustainable makes it very important around, less degradation. less use of resources. Not that we are cutting down our consumption, resources are less. So sustainable part, let me touch a little bit so that we all are the same thinking. Procurement, you all know very well. I don't need to explain around getting at a competitive price, best quality. When we say sustainability, mean depletion of natural resources to maintain the ecological balance, the balance between the living bodies and the environment part. So I think that's the one in a summarized way explains around. So let me get down to the summary, what we got from the questions. So we asked some people around, what do you cover in sustainable procurement? Are you only focusing on the green specifications? Are you looking at the people? In general, let me be honest with you, there's some we got around close to 75 replies. Big names, I would say, like Tata Consulting, IBM's, Godrej, many big names came around. And some are doing very well, actually, particularly on the IT side. Some big names, if I talk around, they are doing very well on this sector. I was not expecting that much feedback, but I could see the procurement people were knowledgeable. So social part, many people ignored it. They said we have CSR activity. So obviously we look after the environment part and we look after the economic part. Economic part, we all do it in procurement. We always look for value for money, total cost of ownership, life cycle costing. Everybody's conversant. Environment part was lacking. I started this activity around when I was in Denmark, along with UNICEF. We started around in 1998. I did around. I represented UN in the one of the big conference. So that's the time we went into the green specification. We developed the green specification with the help of EU. Whether you talk of computer, whether you talk of tables, chairs, we tried to develop some broad guidelines. But that has not moved much when I see from 98 till now. Now the labels have come around, environmental label. Because the specification, what we did in 1998 is also changing. So now people are come with environmental labels around. So this is where we got some feedback that guys, we are following it, but our focus is more on economic and environment side. Social part, majority, I would say 90% said no, because we focus on CSR. But then some people understood around how, because when you select the supplier, I'm sitting in X big companies and I give a contract to another companies, and that company is manufacturing it, and are they taking care of all this? So some people have developed their guidelines covering all three parameters. So that's the way answer came. So it was different ways. Some people said we are asking our suppliers to give us this information. Some said we don't question it because this is covered through the government guidelines. So the three pillars which we talk around is the planet, profit, the economic part. Certainly, we have been always talking around the procurement person. People part we have been ignoring. But now I think some companies I could see around when they select the suppliers, they look into this. Are they following these parameters? And the last is planet, the use of resources part. So when we look around under each environment, those we said, guys, okay, give us a list of activities around what you do. If you are looking from the environmental angles, so broadly we give a big list to them and they tick ones which ones are relevant to them. So I would say out of like an environment, we give a list of 9 or 10 points around. So majority of them, I would say 80 to 90% clicked only on this. They said carbon dioxide reduction, so emission has to be cut down. Second was alternative energies. So emission could be different ways around the product which I'm buying. If it consumes less of energy, that means I'm cutting down the emission. So that becomes a parameters. So if I compare two products, one consumes less water, less energy. So that means I'm getting into that, which I think most of the companies are following it. Alternate energies around solar windmills. Now, certainly this has picked up in some areas around. Some companies have now started, manufacturing companies are focusing a lot on the solar, particularly when there's a power cut. So they want to have their own solar, they want to have their own battery bank. So they are not depending on generator, which creates more carbon emission. So people are trying, and India is doing well on the solar side. When I look at the Arabian Sea side, like in Gujarat or something, the windmills are coming very popular. Water management is coming up. So water management people are managing it through those who are following ISO 41000. So that means they are managing it. It doesn't fall per se under the activities of procurement, how much wastage of water is going around. So green specification, this is a critical word which I remember we started in 1998, and then I found having the green specs looks very nice, but how do I write it? I can only talk about the packaging material. I can talk about what goes inside it, the manufacturing part. So I think people have developed some broad specification. I do have a list with me, which was developed long back. Now many guides have come around, many guidebooks are available on green specs, but mainly for common user item. Pollution and the waste management part. So pollution and waste management, again, you may say waste management, certainly procurement is involved many places around because they sell the waste. But how to cut the waste down, procurement may not be involved around. But then there are other department functions which are dealing with it now. So particularly those companies who are following environmental management system, 41,000, the operation department or some other functions, they take care of all these activities. But broadly, certainly it is covered. Then we ask about the economic pillar side. I think we talked a lot since morning, total cost of ownership, value for money, economic regeneration. This word is coming up now. In the past, it was all one or two global hub of manufacturing. Even simple item when you can make yourself, but they were going into other countries, but now people are looking into it. Can we make it locally? Can we make it regionally? So that there's a less of transportation involved around, less of disruptions involved around. Development of SMEs, small medium enterprises. So that also has come up in the answers. Social pillars, I will not get much into because only 2 or 3 companies replied, but rest said this is not our. But certainly they say we will try to ensure in the future when we select a supplier, we could ask them. Now, when we ask about what are the drivers of your SP policy, what drives it? What are the key factors? Because some company out of 80 companies, I would say around 20, 25 companies had SP policies, particularly the IT sector and top manufacturing sector of India, like Tata's and IBM, they do have some. So those drivers, what drives our SP policy? Sustainable procurement. Everybody said cost reduction, cost reduction. Some said revenue also. But then revenue means if they say my product, my services are based on the greening of the product, then possibly you get a better clients around. Risk reduction also. So then they give us some broad highlights of what we cover under that. Risk means mitigating the risk, regulatory non-compliance part. So the non-compliance, if I'm doing a power generation, I'm not emitting too much of carbon in there. So how much carbon emitter and how much of ash I'm throwing around. So those risk management, some power plants came to us, they are managing it. Cost cutting, certainly that's the focus around it. Particularly when it talk of packaging side, recycling side, I think India is doing well. In India also we got 2 type of products around. Some are made with virgin materials, some are recycled materials. Sometimes recycled material is as good, you won't know it, but some of the parts are made with the recycles. So they go. Particularly when I say steel, aluminium, which is recycled, plastic, which is recycled, it may be as good as the new. So packaging side, this side, because our cost of collection of the old material is in developing countries still cheaper, and we have the culture of recycling. So I think we are doing well. So value creation wise, developing new green products, leveraging, I think this we all see nowadays coming around. Suppose if I'm working in a big automobile companies, so if I want to get any X product like my seats, my dashboards and other parts around, whether they are made in innovative materials around, which can be recycled. Suppose if I'm making a specific item which is made of brass and now I want to switch over to plastic with ABS, which can be recycled, it cuts down my cycle time and becomes a greener product. So approaches also, we looked around with the supplier that how do you select the supplier? Some companies came to us that guy, we have a design of our product based. We have the specification. And those specifications, product based. Second was we go with the supplier based, where the supplier has got some policies on this around. So combination of two. One is that I give them the specification, my specs are these. And then other ones are how companies are taking care of it. It's a combination of the two. They say we try to do the selection part. Ranking of the challenges, I can skip this, but this is also, we ask question, how will you rank the challenges around? So they came with a list around. Approaches for sustainable procurement, they said we give spend analytics. So we do ask them KPIs, sourcing, collaboration. So we try to work with them, suppliers around based on these parameters. So we try to see whether we can make some savings. Other survey questions were green procurement. I would say 67%. So out of 80 companies, 67% said yes, we are committed to this. Farmer green procurement policies, 40 said yes, we have a policy. But the policy was, some had only the green procurement, some had a much broader one, sustainable procurement. So sustainable procurement, I could see much more in the IT sector, but other ones, they came with the green part. Time frame to implement green procurement policies around. Some said, yes, our management is looking into this. So when we are looking into this, because the government is also come with the pressure of net zeros soon to control the climate. So they said we are also working on 6 to 12 months. Does your institution policies include any of the followings around? So we put down the 3 parameters. Environmental consideration, so which I summarized earlier, but now you can see 73% said environment. That's all. I can understand now because majority of the procurement people understand only one parameter, and economic part certainly, but social justice, very small. So the social justice, I mean, number is okay, but they are not much involved, procurement people. They leave it to the CSR activities. They say, guys, okay, you are the suppliers. Are you having any CSR activity? So they assume that they are socially, they're okay. Social justice is there. Social justice means no labor, child labors, no gender. When there's a gender disparities around, so those factors are there around. Then we ask some questions on the main drivers for the institution sustainability initiative. So why your company is getting into this? I would say 93% talked about reduced carbon footprint. So that was the focus, and that's what Jelly was also saying around carbon footprint is also important around. I'll touch it later further explanation people gave us. Very few, but I'll explain. They reduce the cost around, reduce the material consumptions. We want to cut down the material reduction. I'm making a very heavy product around. Do I really need a design of that size? Can I redesign the structure so it become lighter? So that's the one around reduce the material consumption around, improve your company image. So again, if you look at the company image was coming in the last list around. So it was not the major one. Then we had percentage of total procurement spending on green products. So you can see much. The color wise, you can see 0 to 16%. This one, very less. More than 50% when we talk around procurements. The number is also very small. Can't say. Some companies came same way, we don't know whether it's a green or not. So we tell the suppliers green, but the supplier says green, but we are not able to vouch for it. So that's where you will see the way. So there was big confusion, but this is still on the growing curve, I would call it. Sustainable procurement standards. We asked around how many of people have learned about it. I was, to be honest, not expecting much. I said ISO 20400 is only 5 years old. But the number is not bad. So 33% said yes, they are aware of it, and they are trying to use that as a base for their own policy. So then 66 were not aware of it. Actually, if you look around ISM trainings around, we do focus on this. Actually, one of the sessions we always do is on sustainable procurement, ISO 20400, the complete series. Like we had in the good old days, ISO 9000 on the quality side. So we also focus a lot in our programs around. Eco-labeling, yes, this has been important around. So eco-labeling 1991, Government of India came around and it covered cradle to grave, from raw material till going back to this. So it is there, but still not very popular except packaging area, textile area, some other sectors has come around. Then for building materials, Green Pro is there by CII, Confederation of Indian Industries. For organic products, India Organic is there, ISO certainly is there around, star rating for electrical products. So all rate electrical product, whether you buy air conditioner, whether you buy any machine, any mixing, you get star rating around star 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, whatever. GPP also from the public procurement side, this was made, but it's not been launched to my knowledge. So this covers again the positively affects all aspects of triple bottom line. The triple bottom line means we talked about the people, planet, and profit. I think we are still at not that stage to get into this. I know some governments have made it broad guideline, so we expect someday this also will be ready. The usage of ISO 14,000, 20,000, 76,000. 26,000 talks of social parameters. 20,400 is totally sustainable procurement. 14,000 is the one which talks around environmental management system. So here you could see 5% people are using it, 10% number of companies who are using this one. This is the older one, around 7, 8 years old, while this one is new. Climate disclosure project. One or two companies came around that they have a climate disclosure project. And this is one of the two IT companies. That how much is going to the landfill, how much cut down is there every year. So it's impressive. I mean, how much is they are affecting the climate? They do project as a part of it. So only two companies came around. They came up. Carbon footprints. So carbon footprints also, I would say, around the types and levels of emissions. There are 3 types. So I'm taking in from Jelly. Scope 1 is direct. What you and me are sitting in the procurement office, what we create. That is a small baby. The scope 2 is the one we buy something. We buy energy. We buy electricity. That is also not big. But scope 3 is a major carbon footprints. And that's the most difficult one. Indirect means building-wise, food-wise, travel-wise. We travel a lot. So that's again a carbon footprints. And then the next one is the waste of the goods around. In the last, I would say, companies are coming with a voluntary setting net zeros. So, I mean, this is still a good beginning, I would say, but not much. Even some companies said 1 or 2 company net zeros, but we don't see that's one. The lastly, I would say one slide. I know I'm skipping. Value of the sustainable procurement, I think it is certainly going to make a big difference. Particularly, example, we quoted around toner cartridges, any other green products, many things have come around. So without getting too much on this, so I leave this one and the Q&A if any.
Thank
Yes,
you, Mr.
ma'am.
Batra. Question 1 that is I can see on the screen is green procurement and the related procurement chain sustainably require coordination and collaboration with internal and external supply chain partners to re-examine delivery methods, products, packaging, and measurement systems?
Certainly, Payal, I think this is a wonderful thing. Procurement, its good old days is gone. Procurement means sitting in isolation. The future procurement means working with stakeholders. You can't be the smart in everything around. So you need to talk to the stakeholders. Let's say some supplier comes to me. Say, guys, sir, your design is useless. Can we change this? It'll cut down the emission. It'll cut down the raw material. But then I need approval from my stakeholders. So stakeholder one side gives me good idea. Other stakeholder has to approve it around. So that I think has to change. And this is where I find in the public sector, we set the stone. We write down the specs. So we don't encourage innovative ideas around. So that part, if we are not coming with our innovative ideas, this will not fly. So certainly the stakeholders are very important to us, internal and external. Thank you again, Payal, on this.
Thank you, sir. The next question: how can procurement reduce carbon emission?
Oh, good. They are the key players. One person has given a figure. I don't know whether I should accept it. Two-thirds of the emission, two-thirds of the world emission can be attributed to procurement. You can imagine how important we are. Emission means procurement mean at home also we buy, we eat, we buy, we emit carbon, we travel, we emit carbon. So we have procurement people. So procurement people worldwide, if you look around, government procurement is only 25%. But private sector procurement, who make goods for you and me, for everybody, they buy from somebody is manufacturing it and somebody is emitting it. So carbon emission is there now. So the figure which came, I still have to prove, I didn't say earlier, but now I can say two-thirds of the carbon emission worldwide is in the hand of procurement people. If they are smart at home procurement also, office procurement also, everywhere, if we are careful, maybe we can cut down. You're very important people.
Well, that's
It's a
interesting
private.
to know. What process we may take for disposal of IT hardware? It is a burning issue in the world.
I know when we were doing in the US, I had to take it out, I had to pay money to recycle it. And what they were doing, they were dumping and developing it. So now the concept is coming around, guys. Can we have parts which can be recycled? Instead of going as a hard material into the landfill and then spoiling the water, all the things around. So a lot of research are going around, but still we have a long way to go.
Thank you, Mr. Batra. It was very interesting presentation that we heard. Over to the next presenter.